Hello and welcome back to part 2 of my independent redesign of Sail VR. Last time I covered the main UI UX of the game. I did, however, miss one key component, and that is the ability to get contracts to go fight other ships. Today I'm going to be covering 6 core design elements, so let's get cracking. Affordances: the relationship between the properties of the object and the capabilities of the user to recognize and sense how the object can be used. The first affordance subject is the floating videos for the tutorial. They're an effective way of communicating how to play the game, but at a distance you do not see them. My recommendation is that it is put on a permanent item like a signpost, so that the user can see it at a distance and know that it is the next tutorial. The next subject is the map and the inventory on the user belt. The inventory looks a lot like the map, and it is not intuitive on which one to grab when you're trying to find your inventory. It would be recommended that it would be changed to look like a pouch or a backpack. Next is climbing. I was unaware that you were able to climb the mast or any of the trees without actually just experimenting and testing. I would change this by adding a handhold on the mast so that it looks like a ladder, and a tutorial element that shows climbing on trees. Constraints. The design concept of constraining refers to determining ways of restricting the kind of user interactions that can take place at a given moment. The only subject that I found would benefit from a restraint is whenever you go into the water, you fall off the map and you return to the boat. I would recommend that as you get closer to the edge, your character begins to black out and maybe has suffocating sounds or bubbling. Mapping refers to the relationship between controls and their effects on the world. For mapping, the first subject that I would like to talk about is the player belt. It feels very utilitarian with just having white circles. There needs to be more diegetic UI. Diegetic UI is made to look like it is entirely part of the game's narrative. So it would make more sense to have the map and the inventory on a belt along with the weapons. Another mapping subject is the shops. I assume that eventually that there will be NPCs, but in the meantime, substituting some of the interfaces with books would be helpful. Lastly, there are sailing ships. You initially start off with a raft, but can upgrade to larger boats. But once you upgrade to the larger boat, you no longer have access to the raft. When you upgrade your ship, the raft should still remain, and each new boat would take up a new slot. There already seem to be designated docks for each different boat. Conceptual models, or consistency. This refers to the design interface that have similar operations and use similar elements for achieving similar tasks. Continuing the idea from mapping, ship customization feels unimmersive with small models just spinning in the air. Recommendation: each dock should have its own bench that only works on that ship. The next subject is that the name of the game is Sail VR, but the user starts the main menu on land. My recommendation is that the user start menu is set on an underway ship to really reinforce that nautical theme. The last subject for conceptual models is floating numbers. There are 3 of them, one for your ammunition, one for your health, and one for your gold. My recommendation is that the gold is moved to the inventory, the health is moved to a bar of some sort, and for the ammunition, because there's only a 1 of 1, you can make it into some sort of fuse or indication on the gun. Visibility. The more visible functions are, the more likely users will be able to know what to do next. Visibility is a generalization of signifiers as it pertains not only to instructional symbols but graphic design elements as well. The first item for visibility is that all shops look the same, and they have items on top of them that disappear after a short distance. My recommendation is to have permanent unique shop signs for each store so that the users can recognize them at a greater distance. The last subject I have for visibility is missing key tutorial points. As I was going through the tutorial, I was having a hard time finding some of the videos. My recommendation is to treat the tutorial like an amusement park, creating a single trail for the user to walk on, making it hard to miss any information. Feedback is about sending back information about the action that has been done and what has been accomplished, allowing the person to continue with their activity. The one and only subject for feedback is that whenever there are lots of items on the ground, it is hard to determine which item you are selecting to pick up. My recommendation is to have items highlighted or have an X on the item to show the user what is about to be picked up. That concludes my current list. Next week I'm going to be making visual mock-ups to better aid in determining if these recommendations could be useful. Also, if you play SailVR, I'd love to get your feedback in the comments. Until next week.